Hello and welcome to 10,000 Tacos. I'm Isidro Salas. 10,000 Tacos is a storytelling podcast. It's a storytelling podcast that simply pays tribute to a pair of taqueros. A pair of taqueros, my mom and dad, is why we do this podcast. This podcast tells stories about my experience growing up in the taco truck, and it pays a tribute to my mom and dad. Welcome to the show. And to get started, just a quick reminder that the theme of this season 4, is the friendship economy. And the friendship economy has many moving parts, has a lot of running parts rather. And trust, as we've covered in previous episodes on this show, trust, in my opinion, is probably the most important of the moving parts. But there are other elements that contribute to a friendship economy, a successful friendship economy. And one of those elements is, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to clearly put it, so I'll just say it. It's consideration, right? The act of being considerate, to be a person who considers others when making decisions. And it plays a part in the friendship economy. So today on the show, I want to tell you a little bit about this element and how it played a big part in me growing up and how it's playing a part in how I see certain things today. I want to tell you about this little street in East San Jose called McCreery. It's a little street, meaning it's short in distance. It runs between East San Antonio and Alumrock Avenue, for those of you familiar with that area. It's probably less than a mile long. And like many streets in San Jose and in many cities around this country, it's a narrow street. Like I said, it's a street where only one car can pass at a time. So just picture a vehicle that has to pull over to the right to allow another vehicle to pass. There are a lot of streets like that in East San Jose and around the country. So some of you may relate. There's a lot of streets like that in Europe. So, I'm guessing because the few times I've been to there. Anyway, again, this street is called McCreery. It's actually McCreery Avenue, which I think is a little bit different, right? I've always pictured avenues being these big, multiple lanes, streets, right? Very busy each side with whizzing traffic, But that's not the case in this point. This street, McCreery Avenue, is very thin. It's small. It's narrow. I think this is a very special street for me. And it's special because it was the street that would lead us into the neighborhood where we would sell tacos. It would lead us through that neighborhood where eventually we would park and open up the doors and sell tacos. So in essence, it was connected to our livelihood. It led us to the core of our business, which was selling tacos and burritos. So on one particular night in 1982, I'm about 10 years old, and it's a hot summer night. It's September. It's about 90 degrees as we're heading there. I don't know any other 10-year-old who knows things like this. The temperature outside, the direction in which we're traveling, but that's me. I am that 10-year-old. The sun is beginning to set, and it's still hot. And I'm like, ugh. It's a great evening to be out with my friends. It's a great evening to play whatever games a 10-year-old plays on a Saturday night around the block from when he's growing up. That's why I hate it. But no, I have to go sell tacos with my dad. As we turn into the street McCreery, again, it's narrow. I notice that another car is approaching. My dad veers to the right as the incoming car passes. We had to slow down and even almost stop to let this car pass by. Once the car passes, we begin to go ahead. And my dad spots another car. And again, my dad begins to slow down and veer to the right and allow this other car to pass. I think to myself, why are we the ones slowing down? Why are we the ones that has to allow the cars to pass by? Is it the right of way for them? I start to think about this. Why can't they be the ones to pull over? But, we eventually get to the corner where we're going to park, on the corner of Alum Rock and McCreery. We open the doors and begin to cook the carne asada for the evening. The customers start arriving mostly from the neighborhood, right? It's around 6 p.m., not yet time for los metreros, and los metreros, the club goers, as my dad used to call them. The place where we used to park was called El Metro. So naturally, the people who tended that club, we used to call them Los Metreros. Actually, my dad coined that. So anyway, these are not them. These are not those customers. The first customers are the people from the hood, from the neighborhood. I guess they can smell the carne asada as we were passing by that little block. And once we tend to them, we get a little break. So we start doing those little things that, we would do in between customers to get the truck going. And I asked my dad, why did you pull over for them? I asked. Just curious. We're bigger. Shouldn't they have pulled over for us? I asked. I don't think my dad had an answer for that. He just nodded his head as to agree, but left it alone. He begins to chop the carne asada. And then I begin to wash the cilantro, and we just simply move on. Now, my dad, he was never one to make stuff up. If he didn't have an answer for something, he just wouldn't make it up. Here's the magic in my dad's silence on that day. My dad was a leader. He was a natural leader. He was the leader of our family. He was the kind of leader, though, who would silently lead. He led by example. His actions spoke for him. I figure he left it up to us to figure out why. When I would have these type of questions, he would let me figure it out. But his actions really guided me towards those answers. His actions were interpretable. He would pull to the right because he was considerate. Simply said, he showed careful thought for what that action of pulling over really meant. If he stayed on the street and expected the car that was upcoming to pull to the side to allow him to pass, perhaps that person, that driver, would have done that, and perhaps he would have not. I tend to think most people don't pull over to the side. They expect you. So I think my dad cautioned on efficiency. He would rather be efficient. And it was simple. It was faster for him to pull to the side than to have a stalemate in case the other driver was expecting for us to move. So imagine the two cars at each other and not moving. So anyway, it was just easier for him to pull to the side. And although it added a little bit more time, we eventually got to that corner and opened up the doors and began selling the carne asada, the al pastor, the quesadillas, all those good little treats that made us successful for so many years. In essence, my dad picked the family business over his own personal feelings in case he was considering having a face-off with somebody that didn't want to pull over to the side. I know this is a bit confusing, but bear with me. Today, we face a similar situation, but the stakes are a lot more severe. They're a lot higher. Today, we are being asked to wear masks. Because of COVID-19, a lot of us are being asked, most of us are being asked by not just the United States, not just in Mexico, everywhere, to wear a mask. And the mask is simply to help prevent the spread of this disease. Why do we do it? Why do we wear a mask? Well, simply said, to prevent the spread of the disease, right? But just as important, why do others choose not to wear one? Why are there a lot of people out there going, nah, I don't need to wear one. F that, it's my right. You know, why? Remember the episode $5 Crisis in the beginning of this pandemic? The primary thing, if you've not listened to that episode, go back and listen to it. You know, it's not really that long and it's important, but the theme of that was these questions that we asked to unknown answers. And when you do ask those questions, there's sometimes a waste of time. So you're wasting your time if you ask yourself, why do people not wear a mask? So I'm not going to waste your time. I'm figuring this out. But what I do want to do is offer a little bit of a different perspective, a taco perspective, if you will. Wearing a mask is like going down a narrow road where only one car can pass at a time. And wearing a mask is like being that car that pulls over to allow the other car to pass. It's like allowing that car to pass so you can go get your tacos or go sell tacos or go get to your destination where you have to be. It's simply being considerate, and your reward is your destination. That may be your family, that may be your work, that may be tomorrow, or it may be tacos. It's about being considerate. It's about helping the economy, the friendship economy. The friendship economy flourishes when we are considerate. Thank you for joining us on this latest episode of 10,000 Tacos. We greatly appreciate the time you give us. Until next time, I'm the proud son of a taquero, and this is 10,000 Tacos.